It's like this is the clearest like fixed fight you're ever gonna see. But look at this guy holding his hands up and watch. Look at that. He like literally shows him his chin, like, and he goes down. It's so fake. Look at, I mean, he's got nothing. It's like a guy who just learned boxing yesterday.
World title in everyone's imagination. That's the heavyweight champ. You were here. Everyone else was here. But since then, the feeling has been Joshua makes all this money fighting anyway, 30 million pounds, whatever it is. Why should he take 40 or 50 to fight Wilder when he's making against anybody? He can make 30, 40 million pounds, whatever it is.
No fantasy contracts, just reality. You know, bringing our work to the table and bargaining.
This doesn't fade out quietly. It ends with lawsuits murmured behind closed doors, careers burned at the edges, and a heavyweight legacy staring into a void. So we have to rewind, because if you blink, you miss the instant the foundation cracks. You need to see how this unraveled, from private conversations to a public collapse, because the fallout reaches beyond a single punch, beyond money, beyond ego. It cuts to something deeper, whether what we're watching anymore is even genuine. You want to say it can't be real, but it is, and that's exactly what makes it unsettling.
That's why Jake Paul is so relevant, because he's found a way to bypass promoters and make money in the boxing rings instead of being a prisoner to the promoters. Even though he didn't fight anybody, he's about to fight Anthony Joshua, and we'll see what happens with that. Anthony Joshua should knock him into tomorrow because he's the bigger fighter with incredible power, but he's got a glass jaw. So if Jake Paul catches him, who knows?
When that detail first emerged, it didn't carry the usual buzz or manufactured drama. This wasn't trash talk. It wasn't promotion. It felt like a hinge moment, a crack in the door. And on the other side sat power, influence, and an implication heavy enough to contaminate an entire weight class. When Anthony Joshua speaks plainly and lets a seemingly offhand remark fall with that kind of weight, it isn't background noise. It's a signal. A shot across the bow, and you felt it before you could explain it. That brief drop in your gut, the instinctive pause before logic had time catch up.
It's physical, it's psychological, and when you understand the psychological warfare, I did say to you that, Jake, what's going to happen? I'm going to see a time when I'm going to take your soul, and you're either going to give up or you're going to get knocked out. And unless you have that instinct, you just will never be a good fighter. So I wish that I could have knocked him out at the start. But as we saw tonight, Jake has spirit.
Here's where it takes a darker turn. When it surfaced, it didn't announce itself with noise or spectacle. It moved quietly, slipping out in a space where pretenses drop. And that's what makes it unsettling. This wasn't someone hunting attention. It was a reigning heavyweight laying out why certain matchups feel off, why some opportunities never materialize, and why financial pressure keeps speaking louder than principle. And don't pretend you didn't sense it. That tension isn't fading. It's getting closer.
That are going, Jake deserves credit. This is amazing. He's gone 6 rounds with Anthony Joshua. He hasn't gone 6 rounds with Anthony Joshua. He spent 5 rounds on his bloody bike, and the other diving for cover. Come on, let's get real about what happened last night. The dude basically used the greedy to hoodwink the stupid. Fair play to the kid, man. He made 50 million plus. I mean, someone's just sent me a message saying that they did 90 million. Respect. There's people out there saying, oh, he kept getting dropped multiple times and getting up. No, he didn't. Stop.
You want the real jolt? It's the idea that power now believes outcomes are negotiable, that legacy can be drafted, erased, and revised like copy. And the moment that mindset brushes up against a fighter forged through sanctioned violence and hard-earned scars, something gives. Because combat isn't content. The instant you start treating it that way, disorder follows. And yes, I'll say it plainly. Somewhere along the line, someone convinced themselves that Anthony Joshua could be handled like a brand instead of a force. That miscalculation is where everything cracked.
AJ, do you think Jake is on your level whatsoever?
No. No.
No, okay.
Respectfully. Because it's clear. If I say yes, I'm going to be lying to myself, and I can't lie to myself. It's not that he can't compete,
right,
but when you talk about, for example, music, how many albums I've put out, how many mixtapes I've put out,
yeah,
he just hasn't got the body of work I've got in boxing.
I can already hear the deflections forming, crossed wires, jokes misunderstood. strategy spun into harmless talk. But pay attention to the delivery, to the restraint. That composure is the giveaway. When someone refuses the spectacle and calmly draws a line, it carries more weight than any loud accusation ever could. And here's the part people avoid voicing. If that conversation happened here, who else was present for it? Who else heard it and nodded along? Who chose silence instead of objection? Because silence isn't neutrality, it's participation by omission.
100 miles an hour. There's two things I would have done. Tried to shut Jake down at 100 miles an hour, or I would have gone on the back foot. So Jake decided to move around the ring, and I decided to put the pressure on. What I could have done better is a lot of things. 100%. In the fight game, you've seen the amazing fighters that have graced us over the last 100 years, and the expectations that we put on ourselves of.
This is where it cuts deepest, psychologically. The sport lives on uncertainty, on the promise that once the bell sounds, anything is possible. Corrupt that belief, and you don't just cheapen one evening. You drain value from years of passion. Every fan who has ever lost their voice yelling at the screen feels it on some level. That quiet doubt, that intrusive question creeping in afterward. Was the outcome already tilted before the gloves even met?
And the reason has everybody side-eyeing this whole situation. From what's being said, Jake is claiming Anthony Joshua went off script. And when I say off script, I mean there was supposedly a no knockout clause, or at least very specific fight rules, and Joshua hitting Jake so hard that his jaw got dislocated in 2 places was not part of that agreement. Jake basically saying that punch crossed the line from just boxing into what he...
From Jake Paul's side, the silence matters. And don't get this wrong, this isn't an attack on crossover money itself. It's about control, about who owns the story, about the dangerous belief that violence can be directed like a storyboard. When that idea collides with a fighter who earned his leverage through years of damage and discipline, the refusal becomes the story. And yes, that refusal unsettled people, because it proved that not everyone is available at any price.
Knocked out predictably by Anthony Joshua in tonight's fight. Now, I am torn on this fight. When it first started and Joshua was giving it, I'm thinking, oh, here we go again. It's the Tyson fight again. We're talking about 2 fighters who are pretending. It looked like a Rocky fight at the start. Joshua was afraid to let go. He was just like tapping. Let Jake get a few punches and everything. And then I'm thinking, hang on, I'm torn between 2.
As the conversation spread, other fighters and analysts responded, not directly, but around the edges. And pause here with me, because this is the part that's unsettling. What followed wasn't pushback, it was haze. And haze is dangerous. That's where speculation multiplies, where clips get replayed frame by frame, where fans start drawing lines that promoters desperately hope remain unconnected. I'm telling you, there's more beneath the surface, more that hasn't been voiced yet, because saying it out loud would strike a match no one could control once it's lit.
If Jake is really saying this fight was supposed to follow a script, then what does that say about the event, the Vegas crowd, the betting money, all of that? Because that opens up a whole different conversation nobody wants to touch. He's allegedly claiming Anthony Joshua could be on the hook for something like $20 million for violating the rules and going beyond what was agreed upon. But let's be real for a second. This is boxing. People get hit. Jaws get broken. That's literally the risk
You think the split in reactions was accidental? It wasn't. It followed lines of loyalty. One side needs the show to stay polished. The other needs the sport to remain untouchable. And when those priorities crash into each other, the fallout doesn't start with shouting. It begins with murmurs, carefully worded remarks, people choosing every phrase like it could cut them. And that caution tells you everything you need to know.
Where the 2 parties are going to meet, talk, discuss, have this. Just watch this video.
And mentally.
It's already written.
Where?
In the history books, brother.
In yours, not mine.
No, it is. You'll see. There's only one God, and God wrote it.
You see with Jake, what I learned about Jake is that he's a mental person. This is my observation. Not only the physical aspects of training, but the way he thinks, meditation, breath work, if I can break his soul.
Here's the threat people aren't prepared for. The moment the idea of a script seeps in, everything gets reinterpreted. Every punch is doubted. Every quiet round feels suspicious. Even strategy starts to look calculated in the wrong way. You can see it already. Fans replaying fights like investigators instead of spectators. That isn't enjoyment anymore. It's distrust. And distrust travels faster than any promotion ever could.
Carrying Jake Paul. Was he carrying Jake Paul because of the script with the mentality of knocking him out before time? Or was Joshua not wanting to potentially hurt this guy? Like, hurt him. Like, he was throwing single punches, sometimes the odd 1 or 2s. You know what I mean? The first 4 rounds, you're talking like 8 punches to 5 punches. And he was like, I was thinking now, there's some sort of script.
The ripple effects went far beyond boxing. What stood out and what barely got discussed was how Joshua didn't posture, didn't perform, didn't milk the moment. That kind of restraint makes the message heavier, because those chasing clout rarely move like that. Those defending boundaries, they refuse to cross due. And if that unease is creeping in, that's the point. Comfort is exactly how this kind of influence persists.
Fight script just got leaked and the details are absolutely insane. This script goes back to the initial promotion where he was supposed to fight a super underweight Gervonta Davis. But we now learn this fight was never supposed to happen. The plan was always to fight Anthony Joshua, but they started with a villain arc by positioning him against someone 70 pounds lighter. So when he goes to fight someone heavier instead, he looks like a hero underdog instead of the initial side. But that's just the beginning. The script for the actual fight is set up for it to go the distance and Paul to be awarded the win by decision.
This moment also highlighted the power imbalance in the sport. Let me offer another unsettling thought. If this was casually suggested to a global star, imagine the pressure on fighters without leverage, without platforms, without escape routes. Think of the quiet agreements, the nods, the contracts thick with ambiguity, and tell me honestly that none of that exists. Because if you do, you're fooling yourself. Yes, I hear the talk about legal angles, financial threats. But boxing has always been risky. Bodies break, jaws snap. That's the implicit bargain. The second someone reframes that risk as a breach of plan, the sport hesitates. The ring stops being a proving ground and starts looking like a liability. And that shift is frightening. Pause. Breathe. This isn't over. Not even close. Networks are watching. Sponsors are recalculating. Younger fighters are taking notes. Veterans are quietly wondering how many times they were tested without realizing it. Somewhere, someone is sweating because a boundary was drawn publicly and they can't figure out how to navigate around it. I'll leave you unsettled intentionally because there are too many gaps, too many careful words, too many people acting like this is normal. And it's not. If you think the story is finished, you're not paying attention. The next reveal won't come with a warning. It'll hit suddenly, messy, uncontrollable. And when it does, boxing might not even recognize itself.